And I'll just start the recording saying that this is going to be a 2021 recap featuring some lovely people from Discord. Here on the stage right now, hopefully more people will join, is Esther, Connor, and Victoria. So we're going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of 2021. Esther, what were your favorite moments this year?
Um, my favorites were seeing some beauty editorials actually providing some coverage on like anti-clean beauty and actually showing that there's like a little bit of like nuance and how there's a lot of misinformation. I think that was really refreshing to see since there was so much clean beauty propaganda this year.
Yeah, I think that really did start this year. I feel like clean beauty has, like, media has had rosy glasses for clean beauty up until this year. Would you agree? I feel like it was after, especially after the stuff in the White House in January, and then people started talking about it being like a conspiracy theory, and then it became less and less popular in magazines. Maybe that's wrong and I've missed something.
Yeah, no, I really feel like it like blew up this year because I feel like it wasn't as talked about as frequently last year. Um, but I guess like it kind of makes sense with like the pandemic and all that. I think it kind of just like coincided together that like with the misinformation with like the pandemic, it also like dripped down into the beauty industry as well, and a lot of things just blew up. And yeah, alongside clean beauty.
Connor, I don't know if I can hear you yet. I see you're unmuted, but I still can't hear you.
How about
Oh,
now?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, I've given up on trying with the computer. I try to do everything on the computer, and then for some reason, this never seems to work. So I just pulled out my
Phone it
phone.
is. So I suppose I'll go to you next. So firstly, would you agree with us that clean beauty has kind of been, it's now seen in a different light this year in the media than it has before? Would you agree with that? Is that kind of a new? And then also, what were your highlights of 2021?
I would say to answer the question on clean beauty, I too have noticed, I guess, a change in the overall tone that some of the media outlets have employed when they're discussing these topics. That being said, I think that one of the things I keep coming back to, like, I mean, some of the things that I've mentioned in conversation with you, but also just like with other people, it's like I almost don't even know whether or not I'm able to accurately take the temperature of the general media sphere because I think that I'm almost, and probably many of us are to some extent, whether I'm probably not aware of the extent of it, but like insulated from some of the discussions that happen outside of, I guess, the typical beauty space. But I think that it's a good thing that at least some outlets are attempting to adjust the way that they're approaching these topics, and they're trying to, particularly around, COVID and anti-vax, anti-science, and, because I mean, ultimately it's all connected. So I think that in some ways, I mean, maybe COVID's contributing positively to that discussion. But I guess I don't really know exactly how it is actually appearing to the rest of the world. As for the other highlights, I think that, I mean, generally speaking, it's just been a resurgence in me of the value and importance of like legitimate science. I mean, I think maybe I probably haven't even effectively intimated to you or anybody else that it has been such a profound experience for me to like see all of the science communication that's been happening this year. Like it has just lit a fire with me, to put it simply, I guess.
That's a great highlight, and I totally agree. There's been a lot of science communication since the start of COVID, which is super inspiring, including everyone on the stage. You guys are super inspiring to me. Thank you for doing what you do, Lalita and Victoria. Would you agree that that clean beauty has the conversation in the media has taken a turn this year?
I say I would say yes. I think media, they're trying to, get away from this whole, definition of clean and all of that, and trying to, educate people and saying that maybe clean is not a real thing, etc. But that's just one part of it. From my own personal experience for consulting for different brands, I've seen that a lot of brands still want to formulate their products. Um, like for example, one of the brands I'm consulting for is trying to come up with some new products, and they really want to get into Sephora's clean. Was is their clean Sephora's clean Sephora clean, I guess, and they
Clean at
want to
Sephora,
formulate
yeah.
yeah, clean at Sephora, right? So they want to formulate their products to make sure it doesn't have anything on that list, their no list or whatever it's called. And I've seen that, brands are still going towards that trend. So while the media has taken a turn and is trying to, educate consumers on, saying that, hey, clean beauty is not a real thing, maybe we should get away from it. But the other side is that brands are still trying to um make their products such that it fits like a clean list somewhere or the other, whether it's Sephora or somewhere else. And I think that requires more education, which I hope can change in 2022. But as far from a personal experience, as far as I know, some of the brands I've seen and working with definitely still are leaning towards the whole clean beauty trend.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. Well, with one exception, which I'm not formulating for them, just like technical consulting. So everyone that I'm helping with formulations, everyone wants their products to fit with Clean at Sephora, because really with the marketplace,
Exactly.
like you can't compete. You can't get on the store shelves because this is what all the retailers that would bring in an indie product are asking for. Yeah, but then all the large brands are now coming onto the trend, because now, like even at Walmart, I think they have is it Walgreens or Walmart? One of the big chains.
Yeah.
They're working with the EWG for their like green curation. And so that's going to be like a stipulation for brands coming onto shelf. So like it's it's not just Sephora. Sephora certainly has had an impact, but yeah, it's gonna the media has shifted. The conversations, especially on social media, perhaps in our echo chamber, to Connor's point, but like I think more people are talking about it. But how will we actually move away from things if this is just like what the major retailers are demanding? Um,
Exactly. And I mean, it's so crazy that some of these brands, have their whole no list honestly makes it so much harder to formulate. I mean, of course you can make products without silicones, etc., but then when you do that, it's like the texture and feel is not as nice, right? Sometimes. And so there's just so many, it just gets so much, sometimes it can cause more problems, if you're trying to use the whole no list to formulate. So I feel like I don't know what the answer is, but I do feel like it is getting much harder to get shelf space for these indie brands. If you really do want to make it onto the shelves of like Walmart, I think it's called like Clean Beauty at Walmart or something like that. You have to, yeah, I know. You have to, you can't have any of these specific ingredients in your products. So I truly don't know what the answer to that is, because more and more big box retailers seem to be, going with this trend. Um, and I don't know. I just don't know at what point, we'll get a truly like we can get away from the clean beauty movement.
until there's another catchy word that everyone clings on to, I think. I don't know. Pessimistic view. Victoria, what do you think?
Oh, I have so many feels, but I don't know if we'll ever be able to get away from clean. I think that the press, every time we get interviewed from the press, they usually start off with asking us about the clean beauty movement. But it isn't until we share our perspective that they're like, huh, this is not what I expect. And it definitely goes against what it's like their preconceived notion. And I think that's just a good example of the consumer experience when they encounter clean. It's their gateway into thinking that this is their way to shop for better skincare. It's just because, just as Skin Chemie said, retails are pushing it, brands are pushing it, celebrities, like you just can't get away from the word, and it's really like sticks. So, um, it's kind of it definitely feels like an uphill battle and has a bit of a pessimistic outlook, but we can only hope that the definition of clean will slowly change. It has changed already, because when it first started, it was all about natural things that came from plants, and we can see that that's already not as much highly valued, I guess. And I was just gonna add on top of I don't mean to derail from the topic of clean, but I would say the one probably good thing that I've seen this year is definitely just a huge push for sustainability and all of the work around that. So you'll win some, you'll lose some, and I just hope that 2022, with all the good work that everybody's doing, even though it's an uphill battle, the conversation will slowly change. And at the end of the day, Gloria and I just hope that we can just continue to keep asking questions in this space, and people will continue to be curious, and do more research. So that's really all we can hope for. And then those are my 2 cents, at least.
Um, yeah, what we were talking about with clean beauty, it just reminded me a few weeks ago I was reached out to by I was recommended as like somebody for this person to talk to. She was a venture capitalist that was looking to
Mm.
fund innovation in toxics, is how she described it. But she wanted to support like initiatives to remove the toxins from products. And then
Oh,
yeah, so
that's
then I
sad.
was well, to make things worse. I was apparently the first person she'd ever talked to that said that there's a lot of misinformation in this space. This was like a surprise. Just me saying there's a lot of misinformation. Most of the ideas around cosmetic
Hmm.
product safety are just misplaced. And then also looking at, I'll stop being so doom and gloom in a sec. I'll just say what I wanted to say, which was I look at like the government funding from Canada. Probably it's comparable in other countries, but like in cosmetics, like where is it going to? It's like different clean beauty certifications or standards that have convinced different government people that, or whoever they're pitching their business idea, that this is like a needed thing in the cosmetics industry. But oh, there's one that got a lot of support from the government, Cert Clean. And then there isn't anyone on their staff that has a background in cosmetic chemistry or toxicology, but then they get so much funding. So yeah, I don't know. Kind of sad. But I'll stop being such a Debbie Downer. Um Julia Ruby, what do you think? Do you think clean beauty has been simmering down in 2021?
Oh goodness. No. I is this being recorded?
Yes, it is.
Right. I won't name any names then, but there's been um two international brands that are owned by a couple of the big beauty conglomerates that in Australia at least have come out with like a whole bunch of new clean products with clean claims. I've been really disappointed to see this, like, big posters in shopping malls of these new products that have 0% this, 0% that, all natural or 99% natural. And it's, if anything, it seems to be becoming more prevalent here, which is really disappointing.
Okay, so what was supposed to be a positive outlook has been switched around. But to Esther's original point, in the media, the conversation has been shifting, and there certainly has been a lot more exposure to scientists in the cosmetic space, and there has been definitely an increase in commerce online. To bring it back to positivity, Lolita, what was your favorite moment this year?
Um, I would I would say yeah, I guess the increase in commerce on social media, spreading more information on science and trying to debunk all these myths that go around. But in terms of social media, I would say commerce, like all of us, are doing a great job. But I feel like so many times, every time I log onto Instagram, I'll see like one of us post something, busting something about like, how silicones are not bad for you. But then right below that, you see like a new brand that says, hey, like, we're formulated without silicones, etc. So for me, honestly, I mean, I do think that this year has been a good year for commerce, but I still think that there's still a long way to go, because there's still so many new brands out there that truly believe deeply in the whole clean beauty movement. So, yeah, I would say that is what I've seen most of in 2021.
Julia, what was your favorite moment of 2021? If you're talking, you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Geez, that is actually a real challenge. I mean, I have been really enjoying finding all these amazing Psycommers, and it's really great how everyone sort of promotes each other's profiles and uh, is making it easier to find more reliable sources of information. I think that seeing Psycommers working together, even across industries, like I found a lot of great people communicating in medicine through Psycommers, and I've seen friendships happening between different sort of niches of science communication. I think that's been really nice to see.
So this year's win is science communication and increase in sustainability initiatives. Although, with that said, on the sustainability side, I'd be interested in what you guys think. It strikes me that greenwashing alongside has been, maybe it hasn't been getting worse, but it feels like it is. And I feel like myself getting really exacerbated when I go to different conferences. It rarely do they have anyone who has relevant expertise on like when people are talking about agricultural sustainability. I find a lot of the times that comes up in conferences, and then they're like cosmetic chemists, and then they're making all these statements about organic being better, and it's like, is it? And what's your relevant expertise? I don't know if I'm just like nitpicking, but what do you guys think? Do you think greenwashing has maybe gotten worse, or sustainability misinformation has maybe gotten worse, or maybe that's just me just like just having a microscope to the issue. What do you guys think?
I think you should stop gaslighting yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I think that what you're seeing is what's really happening. And I mean, from my perspective as a consumer, like I said before, the big beauty conglomerates are cashing in on people's fear even more this year from what I'm seeing. And yeah, it seems to be that there's these people are spreading these ideas about oh well, if you like live really clean and you take care of your health, then this or that will or won't happen. And I think people have more reason than ever to want what this movement is trying to sell, even if it's not something it can actually provide. So no, I think the current global situation is sort of making clean beauty more appealing, if anything.
Anyone else
So,
want? Sorry. I'll stop talking.
no worries. I just wanted to add, in regards to sustainability, I feel like with any marketed initiative, there will always be some sort of washing happening. It's just the nature of, I guess, capitalism, sadly. But I think that there is a lot of effort being put in to see how brands can do more. And while cosmetics really aren't truly the biggest polluters, and obviously I should preface with there's so many facets of sustainability that a brand can work on. I think that the effort should be, if done well, can it does deserve some, recognition. I think that there's there is good work being done, and I don't know. I definitely feel your kind of like, I guess, how torn you are, Jen. There are definitely people who have no idea how to attempt sustainability and are, leading experts, and I just feel like that always comes with the territory. There will always be those people, but I think there's good work. It's just a matter of, is sustainability sustainable, especially for indie brands, because that always comes at a price. And so it's just something that, as more work is being done, hopefully those options will become more and more affordable, especially for smaller brands, because we feel that pain in trying to incorporate things like post-consumer plastics, doing less of a footprint, a water impact, things like that. So anyways, I know it's not 100% solved. I don't know if things will be like that, but yeah, I think it's at least just, I have more hope in this area than clean, I guess. Looking for a positive here.
uh, Maybe I'll just say my favorite moment. Science communicate. Oh, like as a trend, the fact that science communication has gained so much popularity, I obviously, as someone who did SciComm, love that. And sustainability getting more traction, or more people are talking about, more innovation is happening. Like every supplier has an upcycled product at this point. Well, maybe not every, but upcycling is so popular, and that's really interesting. And all the stuff with biotechnologies, I find that super interesting. Like the moment that I really really liked watching. Do you guys know Jasmina Iganovich? She was the entrepreneur in residence. I think she still is, but that's to end shortly at Ginkgo Bioworks, which is like the prolific biotech company. And then she's launching this brand built on like biotech is the whole focus of it, which I think is super super interesting. And how everything launched, I don't know. When I watched everything unfold on LinkedIn, there's a bit of an Instagram presence for the brand, which is called Archaea, maybe. I don't know. That was really inspiring. So Jasmina Aganovich, she was just like just like a girl boss. I was just so inspired as someone who has a business, and really, really, really interesting work. This is not an ad, but I think the concept is super cool. So that's my top moment, a specific moment. Now flipping the question to, unless anyone else has any top moments that they want to share, maybe I'll just stop talking for a sec in case you guys want to add anything on to the top moments before we switch to the worst moments of 2021. No one. Okay. Okay. So maybe I'll start with Esther. Do you want to go first again? What were some of the worst moments of 2021, and why?
I feel like one of us is gonna say it, so I'm gonna go first. It's benzene. That was like the biggest the biggest thing that like just blew up, and it was like you give someone just like a crumb and they made it into like a cake, like a really gigantic cake, and they just took it very far, and it was ridiculous the amount of information that came with it. And also the PFAS too in makeup, that those two were I think like the most frustrating articles, that I mean not articles but like the most frustrating things that came out this year, and it definitely caused a lot of misinformation and a lot of fear mongering, unnecessary fear mongering. And I feel like it was like in a sense a good thing because it provided nuance. Like for example, you Jen, you made several posts on the topic, and it allowed for more people to actually educate themselves about like what's going on. That like we don't intentionally add benzene to any skincare or makeup products, and that PFAS they are regulated, and so on and so forth. So those are my top two.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm not sure if you guys were. I kept getting sent these posts and I didn't respond because it was just, I couldn't. But all the MLM reps, I think maybe predominantly from Beauty Counter, um, after the Procter and Gamble, the recent recalls, I think they found it was from the propellant. Maybe I'm wrong. I read the cosmetics and toiletries news article about it, but I forget what actually happened. But they did analytical testing, and to be cautious, they did the recall. So then they're like, use the MLM reps are use our products. Our products are free of benzene. And I just have to wonder for their products that have the same propellant. Like, have you actually tested that? Do you know that? Some of the responses from brands as like, buy our products instead because it's safe, has been really cringeworthy. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed that, but yeah. Lolita, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Esther on the whole benzene thing from early this year that caused so much confusion among consumers. But I feel like Psycommerce, did a really good job debunking all of that on our social media and actually, putting together explanations and what it all means. So, I think that was something positive that came out of that, with Psycommerce being able to really educate consumers on that. But I would say I've seen, I guess this past year, I've seen a couple of new brands make some really, I'm not sure if you can say exaggerated claims, but a lot of claims that almost seem, well, I've seen claims where, they're saying it can treat hyperpigmentation, etc. So I think that a lot of times, and it seems more common with indie brands, I've seen a lot of claims where, there's a fine line, of course, between drugs and cosmetics, but I've seen claims made toward, drug-like products on a cosmetic, which of course, is a problem if the FDA were ever to catch that. So that's something in 2021 that I've noticed quite a lot of brands do. I've seen hyperpigmentation. I've seen brands put statements like can treat wrinkles, can treat acne. So I think from that standpoint, I would say that a regulatory person is really important for any brand. But yeah, I would say from 2021, the whole claims difference between a cosmetic and drug is something that I've seen indie brands kind of mess up on sometimes.
Connor, do you want to go next?
I think that I would probably have to echo exactly what Esther and Lolita. Is that is that
Yeah,
what your
that's
name
my
was?
name. Yes, that is
Okay.
my name.
I just
Yes.
wanted to make sure that I wanted to make sure that I had that. But I
All
would
good.
definitely say that I agree with both of them. When you asked the question about, what was the worst moment, the first thing that came to mind was the whole benzene scandal. The fact that I refer to it instinctively as a scandal is unfortunate. But I think that similar to what was mentioned, I think that again I was really impressed with how swiftly and how completely the entire issue was explicated by the myriad psychomers, everybody ranging from chemists to dermatologists. Really, really encouraging to see from dermatologists in particular, I think, because, for all of their incredible wisdom and knowledge, I think that it's I mean, and it's the case with every single segment, I think probably. And again, I'm speaking as a consumer, so I can only speak to what I see rather than, what I experience inside any of these particular enclaves. But I mean, the information that I've heard from dermatologists and estheticians, for example, around sunscreen, it tends to be those groups that disseminate the bulk of the misinformation. If we're talking about people that are supposedly, speaking from a place of authority. So it was encouraging to me to see a lot of people, not just dermatologists, actually. I did see a couple of estheticians as well speak about the nuance that needed to be understood as inherent in that issue. Um, and I think that, on a positive note, speaking as a consumer, I think that, having another scandal, for lack of a better word, come about and then to be privy to the explications from so many different experts was really harrowing for me. I think that the more that I see these things happen in real time, the more inclined I am to reserve judgment when something else happens. So, like in the future, for example, if I were to read an article that said, oh, this extremely toxic chemical that has been found in sunscreens is present in 30% of the products that are currently on the shelves, like I would be much less likely to respond with extreme terror. So I think that, I mean, I would hope that more people would respond in similar ways. They would see yet another example and then to see the explications and then realize, okay, so next time something happens that is outside my realm of expertise, I should probably wait and see what the people that actually know things about these things are saying about this, because I'm probably not capable of effectively or accurately interpreting the information here. And I think more than anything else, that's my biggest takeaway from that particular instance, I should say, is that, this is another opportunity for other people that aren't outside of the industry to see something happen, over in the media sphere, and then to see the people that actually know what they're talking about respond and say, well, yes, I mean, this is something that we should be talking about, but it's also not something that we should take as, indicative of some kind of like moral flaw with an entire product category. So for me, it was reassuring to see that reaction from so many different kinds of experts. but it was also reassuring to see that yet another thing that might on the surface seem really simple and straightforward is actually much more complex. And I think that that probably makes a lot of people uncomfortable, this realization that a lot of these things are beyond their immediate ability to comprehend, but it's reassuring afterwards to realize that, while yes, you're not necessarily an expert on cosmetic chemistry or in manufacturing, you are somebody that is literate and can read and can learn from the people that are the experts, the relevant experts, critically. So for me, it was both a positive and a negative.
Victoria, what do you think?
I actually just wanted to give Connor a shout out that if every person had, the same thought process and, exercise pause when they read a sensational headline, I think we would all be in a much better place. That's so awesome. And it's the kind of perspective that we just really want and we talk about a lot is like, the media just can't help creating titles that make you want to fall for the clickbait. So that's really awesome. Agree with everyone. Sunscreens just couldn't catch a break this year, and I think that we'll probably see it again in 2022. Probably one of the most like controversial products. And unfortunately, in the U.S., the FDA isn't really going to help us out here. We'll probably it just nothing will move. So I think that's probably one of the. It was in terms of content and frustration. Summer was definitely a tough time for us. There was just so much confusion and for every piece I feel like the Psycomers put out, there was another launch on Reef Safe and benzene free and top 10 benzene free sunscreen. So definitely agree. Claims are tough, and if anything, it's just a hurrah moment. I feel like this is kind of like a pep rally for all of us. It's just like, just keep going. People will, the more that's out there, hopefully we'll catch the few that are willing to read past the headlines, and that's really all we can do.
Julia, what do you think?
Yeah, so Australia has had a bit of a rough year in sunscreen as well, but not so much from the benzene situation. We did have one product recalled in August and a few products recalled actually just a week ago. But what Australia has had happen in terms of sunscreen this year is sort of a follow on from the AMA Labs scandal back in 2019. And because of like supply chain issues, our regulators decided to give brands a bit more time to retest their products and reformulate. And the deadline for that actually was sort of mid this year. So Australia has just seen a whole lot of sunscreens disappear from shelves this year. Some really wonderful, cosmetically elegant formulas from a few different brands. And particularly, I've noticed we've lost a few formulas with the fun, newer ingredients that we actually have access to over here. So our sunscreen market has, it's the landscape has changed a bit, and brands have been pretty good with substituting products. They've seemed to be like have repackaged some other products they were already selling under the branding that had its original formula discontinued. So I think a lot of consumers won't entirely notice it happening. They might think, oh, my sunscreen suddenly got more greasy or something. But we've lost a lot of wonderful cosmetically elegant formulas this year. And another thing that I've been really sad about is some more affordable brands in like department stores here, and I think a couple of more independent brands have sort of disappeared from the market, from shelves, and the effect that's going to have on consumers is not great. Fortunately, we do have a couple of affordable brands that have sort of held on, but yeah, those would be my two things: the disappearing sunscreens and disappearing affordable products.
And then for me, well, yeah, the news cycle has been really hard to keep up with. I feel like you can't possibly, if you want to do a good job, with everything that came out. There was the benzene, the PFAS. There's a whole thing about phthalates, which was really annoying because the phthalates that they were talking about weren't even relevant to cosmetics. But then they had this whole scaremonger title that cosmetics are going to take years off of your life or something along that line, or those lines. There was something about aluminum. Like, it's just been really hard to effectively address every single headline. And then as a someone who does SciComm, it is kind of stressful when you get sent all these, like, you just want to at some point, just because it's really overwhelming, you just want to kind of like tune it out a little bit, because it's really bad for your mental health to be constantly exposed to the level of misinformation, and especially if you can't really do something about everything because there's just too much. And then you see it on social media of it catches on, and this is what people who are posting misinformation just latch on to, like, see, we told you so. Yeah, that was quite frustrating for me. I will say also something that I found really frustrating this year, and I would be interested in what you guys think about what I'm going to say. I've seen a lot of dermatologists of late. Now, this is my little echo chamber, but do some like really, really sketchy things. Like, I keep seeing, like, really frequently, dermatologists not disclosing advertisement, which I don't really understand, or people who aren't actually dermatologists calling themselves a dermatologist because they're in a country where the title dermatologist isn't regulated, because it should be board certified dermatologist, or it should be consultant dermatologist in the UK. So there's a few like non-dermatologists on social media that keep getting like a platform as a dermatologist, and they're not, which is weird. And then I kept seeing physicians respond really quickly to things and then get it wrong because they didn't take time to make sure that the content that they're putting out is accurate. And then also chiming in on things that were like very far outside of their lane. Now, obviously, this isn't specific to dermatology. I kept seeing this about dermatologists chiming in as experts in cosmetic chemistry. And it's like, why didn't you just recommend a cosmetic chemist or a toxicologist for certain topics that are so far outside of their lane as what their expertise is? Maybe I'm being harsh. This is just what I've seen on my little bubble of social media. I've had to unfollow quite a few dermatologists because I kept seeing, especially, I kept seeing the undisclosed advertisement, and it was just driving me crazy. Esther, what do you think?
I think it's just really, God, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just sad because we all know, I feel like everybody here is on social Instagram, and we all know that like the way that people praise dermatologists is like unreal. Like they look to them as like the authority, and then when you see them like not disclosing ads, and these derms know that brands like are looking for that derm approval, that their brand is derm approved and whatever. It's just, I just feel like it's like in a sense an abuse of power, and it's really deceptive. And it's like I said, it's just really sad. And I just feel like that, I don't know if derms are doing it intentionally or not, but it's kind of just like, how are you okay with doing that to like a potential patient? I just think it's just not fair to the consumer, like, at all. So Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it. And I really hope that it does get better next year. I mean, in the future in general. But yeah, it's just really sad to see, in my opinion.
Anyone else have anything to add before I ask my next question?
Yeah. So this year I've been learning a bit about cosmetic regulations in Japan and South Korea. And one thing I learned about Japan is that they're not actually allowed to do sponsorships with medical practitioners there, even if a product is a like a functional cosmetic or quasi drug. Um, they just can't do it. And at first, when I heard that, I was like, "Oh no, that's ridiculous! Like, how could they like not let like how could they ban that entirely?" But just like becoming more aware of how often disclosure doesn't happen properly and having it pointed out and sort of keeping my eyes open for it. Yeah, it's my attitudes towards these sponsorships has changed a bit. And I think, I mean, some medical practitioners do it really well, and uh, I think they choose their sponsors carefully and they disclose really clearly. And I mean, obviously, you have to make money somehow in order to live right. And I think some of these medical practitioners are actually doing really good science communication and funding that through these sponsorships. But at the same time, the overwhelming majority of what I see is these really murky disclosures that you've got to read through the hashtags. And um, yeah, a lot of cognitive dissonance is what I've been experiencing around the situation. And just maybe Instagram needs to do something. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Instagram like educating big accounts on how to do disclosures properly. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just surprises me that like did you not read the like social media guidance by the FTC? If I keep seeing it from like American dermatologists. It's like, have you not read this? And does the sponsorship mean more than your license as a dermatologist? I don't know if this would impact that, because the other thing that I've seen, which is kind of sad, is a lot of the people who are on the, is it the AAD, the board that like regulates in a way dermatologists in the United States are dermatologists that I've seen not disclosing their advertisement, which is yeah. Something that I would really like to see is a report button where if there's an ad that's not disclosed, you should be able to report it, and there should be like the post should be taken down or something.
And I would love to be able to report like actual advertising like that Instagram is inserting into my feed when there's drug claims, because that's something I've been seeing a lot too, is
Yeah.
cosmetics in actual sponsored posts from accounts I don't follow being pushed into my feed, and they're just loaded with drug claims.
Yeah, second that.
I
Lolita,
was
sorry to cut you off.
No, no worries. I was gonna add that I think one thing that bothers me, I guess, is when I've seen sponsorships on, and of course, I don't want to name any brands, but when brands clearly have some drug claims going. Of course, we know some of the big brands that have, or not big brands, one of the kind of big indie brands, for doing the whole succinic acid thing. We've seen so many dermatologists, promote their products, but I'm sure that they are well aware of the issue around the claims for that product, but yet they chose to kind of just move forward and do the sponsorship. So that actually really bothered me, because I'm like, I'm sure that that's a you know uh the claims around that are it's just some shady marketing, but still being able to promote that was something that I didn't fully agree with. So I would say that that is something that bothered me with dermatologists. And of course, the not disclosing ads for, a bunch of other brands as well. And we've seen this, like, I feel like even when sometimes when people call them out in the comments, a lot of them don't actually go back and edit their caption. So I don't know if I don't know if they're aware of, that they didn't disclose the ads or what it is, but I've seen that even when people call them out, they don't, some of them, not saying every single dermatologist, but I've seen that some of them don't go back and, edit their caption to say, hey, sorry, like I forgot or whatever.
I'll just say something that happened recently. This was with uh Sam by the counter does a really good job catching all the undisclosed ads and putting it in his stories. So he commented, firstly, he had it in his stories, but he also commented being like, where is your disclosure? And then the one dermatologist, she didn't even respond. And so then his comment was sitting there for days. And then, like, he has kind of a small account. And then I went and commented under him being like, I'm so disappointed. I can't believe you're doing this. Where is your disclosure? And then within a couple of minutes, she responded to me. So it seems like in this case, and I wonder if this is a case for others where they feel like, oh, well, there's not going to be backlash because this is a small account that is calling me out on this. At least this is how I perceive this one case, which was, yeah, troubling, very troubling. Connor, I saw that you had your mic unmuted. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think to speak to the comments around the whole, I think, I mean, generally speaking, I think what a lot of us are trying to allude to is this whole misappropriation or misapplication, I should say, of authority. I think, you know, similar to the benzene thing, like you said, like there were a lot of physicians, lots of quote unquote professionals that would respond really quickly to these kinds of headlines. And then, later on, it's like, oh, well, actually, you don't have the relevant expertise. And that's very clearly demonstrated in the position that you took really quickly following the release of the headline. But I think it's another larger issue that for some reason I didn't think about, maybe because I've repressed it. But when you asked about, like worst moments, I think again, to reiterate the whole misapplication of authority, the thing that I know I mentioned to you, Jen, but the for those of you who aren't aware, the ASPA, I think that's the acronym, the Associated Skincare Professional Association, something. It's supposedly the largest association of estheticians in the United States. They have a podcast, and they recently invited a pharmacist of all people onto their podcast, and this pharmacist proceeded to talk about how the fact that sunscreen is considered a drug means that it should be treated like a toxic substance, and advocated for the regular and repeated exposure of as much skin as possible to midday sun to maximize vitamin D production. Like I was just blown away. I mean, I sent an email to them. I did not hear any response back, by the way, Jen. Nobody ever got back with me, and they have
That's
since
sad.
released other episodes featuring the same pharmacist. I
Oh,
haven't
that's so
listened to
sad.
them. I have not listened to any of these new episodes because I can't bring myself to do it. But yeah, it's kind of the same issue, but a different thing. I mean, I think that the implicit assertion, by bringing on this person on this podcast is like, oh, well, he's a pharmacist, it's objectively true that he does have more education than us estheticians, coming from their perspective. So certainly he must know something about these things, when in fact he probably doesn't. And it was very clearly demonstrated by his assertion that it's extremely difficult to formulate physical sunscreen, which is probably true, but is so easy to formulate chemical sunscreens as if they're not one of the most highly regulated cosmetics in the world. But it
Mhm.
just, again, it's the same thing over and over again. It's people that, have authority that is respected by the general public being brought on, or, of their own volition, coming out making statements about things about which they probably ought not to speak. And that's probably been one of the things that I've noticed the most.
I mean, to be perfectly fair, it is quite difficult to formulate physical sunscreens. You need to have a product that stays on, that doesn't add a white color, and you at the same time have to make sure that the SPF is high enough. Chemical sunscreens are much easier because you won't see any discoloration due to pigments. And of course, they do have stability issues, most of them do. But it's not something you as a consumer would notice. But as for why they have someone on who would say that that you'd be regulated exactly like right now, thought of as drug, the same argument as saying that Dr. Phil is a good choice for your psychiatrist, or Dr. X is your
Or
best choice in
president.
medical. Yeah, exactly. Or Dr. X is your best choice of a medical professional. There will always be people who prefer the spotlight over the actual science behind it.
Simon, did you see that Dr. Oz, I don't know where this is at, but that he may be running for president? Why I said that?
No, I did not
Okay,
see that.
good.
I don't usually follow American pop media, but that's depressing, and he would stand a chance to win if Donald Trump could win, based on his apprentice shows and similar. So yeah, that's a scary prospect.
So Simon, you're new to the chat. So my first question and second question, I'll ask them both to you right now. So what was your favorite moment of 2021, and what was in your opinion the worst moment of 2021 for beauty?
Oh, that's a tough one. Favorite moment for beauty is probably that more and more consumers actually start to trust the scientists, but at the same time they are still a small minority, and they will listen to anyone who speaks the loudest on social media. And the worst part is definitely not related to anything that happened outside, but something that happened internally at our company, which was a giant disaster that we had a lot of issues with, and took about half a year to resolve.
Okay, so I suppose to wrap up this conversation, I'll ask you guys two questions in one. So my first question is there something that you'd like to see more of in 2022? And then the second question is, do you have any, obviously nobody has a crystal ball, but do you have any thoughts of where you think trends will go in 2022? Is there something that's going to be like the big trend of 2022? What do you think? Obviously we don't know, but pretend
The
that we
big
do. Simon,
the
what do you
big
think?
trend of 2010 to 2022, negative wise, is that they will say titanium dioxide is killing everyone, because the EU has just decided to do some regulatory changes to it, and we've always seen a ripple effect into the other markets after that.
You didn't answer. What would you like to see more of in 2022?
What would I like to see more of? I would like to see more science communicators that actually have a good grip on the understanding be promoted on social media, so they can actually spread fact rather than fiction.
Victoria, do you want to go next?
Sure. Okay. So, in terms of what I want to see more of in 2022, I'd like to see a lot less of. There's things I'd like to see a lot less of, but um, just with less no lists. But more of is just, I think helping people comb through no lists, more work on that. It's so, like, even for us, it's a lot of work because we all want to vet and, make sure we have our research and back all of our, points up in trying to change, and fight against the misinformation. But I think it really helps consumers because that's the first thing that they read, sadly. So more work on tackling the controversial issues, which means a lot of work, continued work for SciCommers. And then in terms of big trends of 2022, I actually think that, and I hope this is more just I guess a chemist dream, but I hope there's a lot more work to be done in the microbiome space. We're starting to see a couple brands do some kind of interesting stuff there, and looking at microbiome flora and diversity, and how our skincare impacts. And it's kind of a passion, uh, I guess, definitely a passion project for me, personally. So I would love to see that as a big trend of 2022, but that's wishful thinking and also requires a lot more money. So yeah.
Connor, what do you think?
I would definitely have to echo Simon. I think that it probably speaks to, in a tangential or maybe more explicit way to kind of a lot of what we're talking about, the whole idea around individuals that are essentially just staying in their lane, but also the ones that are in their lane being elevated, being given the time that they're probably owed, by virtue of their experience. I think one of the things that I was trying to intimate to you when I was sending you those messages, was that I think that on a more broad scale there's this fundamental disinterest in complexity. I mean, clean got caught on because it is simple. It's very straightforward. It's like, okay, well, if we're gonna separate the two things, it's chemicals versus non-chemicals. Obviously, I'm assuming everybody here recognizes that everything is a chemical. But if you're a consumer and you don't have the relevant expertise, that makes it very easy for you. If it has the clean logo, you go with it. If it doesn't, you don't. Straightforward. Now you feel like you're doing what's right. So very similarly, I think it's the issue that kind of spreads throughout the rest of what we're talking about is, it's really difficult to understand that, if we're talking about the benzing issue, for example, dermatologists might have something worthwhile to say, but cosmetic chemists probably do too. But you might not know that cosmetic chemists exist because lots of people think that products just magically appear on the shelves. And you also might think that regulatory experts don't exist or that toxicologists don't exist. I mean, some people have never heard these terms. So I think I would just like to see more of an openness to the complexity of the things with which we very readily interact with, but seem to be very averse to understanding the complexity of. I think that would probably either directly or indirectly address a lot of the concerns that I have.
And maybe last but not least, it seems we've lost Esther and Lalita. Hopefully they come back, but if they don't, that's okay. Julia Ruby, what do you think?
So what I would like to see more of is brands working on their company culture and taking a bit more responsibility for the way they treat their staff and the way that managers are behaving. And I've seen a lot of things come out recently, like just a lot of it in the stories of Estee Laundry, about like brands just like making people come into work when they shouldn't, and about bullying and stuff that's not so apparent to a consumer, but these are things that I would really like to see brands address and improve on, as well as more meaningful product claims, more substantiated sustainability claims, less focusing on just, oh, it's cardboard packaging and it's 99% natural. But realistically, what I would predict, what I would guess is going to happen is it's just a lot more clean beauty. Hopefully we actually get some nice ingredients, drawing some inspiration from K-beauty, some botanical ingredients that perhaps actually do something. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not very optimistic. But yeah, I would like to see brands. I think, yeah, company culture is something that I'm really becoming more aware of, and I want to see brands do something about that, because I don't like the things that I'm hearing. They're very upsetting. And Esther's back! Yay!
Now, actually, for real, last but not least, Esther, what do you think?
Sorry, my internet keeps like crapping out. Oh my goodness, I just messaged you. Let's see. I actually agree. I agree with Simon. I couldn't hear everybody's answer because my Wi-Fi went out. But I agree with Simon. I really do hope that there's like more science communicators that come online. I think like we definitely need more in the beauty space. There's like not a lot that I know of, and hopefully with time more people come on and debunk a lot of misinformation, because it's like every day that we see different things. And I'm gonna agree with Victoria about like what's the trends that we're gonna see. I think I'm predicting that we're gonna see a lot of probiotic skincare, even more, and microbiome skincare in the years to come, especially since like skincare is like dominating the beauty space right now. And since the microbiome is still like I don't want to say like a new topic, but there's still a lot more research needs to be done. I think we're going to see a lot more brands tapping into this sector of the skincare space. So I'm really excited to see what brands come out with, and just like the research that comes out as well.
And I suppose for what I think, perhaps this is like wishful thinking, but based off of the fact that there is a trend right now with ingredient suppliers for making ingredients from waste products, like upcycled products, I feel like that's going to be maybe a trend in 2022. It's going to get more traction on the brand side of things, in the marketing. Maybe biotech too, but yeah, we'll see. I guess time will tell, and we'll have to recap again next year, and then we'll see. Thank you guys so much for joining tonight. Thank you for being on my Discord. Yeah, so grateful for everyone here. You guys are awesome. I hope you guys have a great rest of your holiday, and Happy New Year's. I'll see you actually, I might see you earlier if you want to come on Thursday. I'm also going to be doing a live podcast recording about safety substantiation issues, or the global challenges with safety substantiation, with Dr. Mojen Madaresi. So tune into that if you're interested. Otherwise, I'll see you in 2022.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year's, everybody. Have a great holidays. 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 Have a great